The forgotten signal. The red dust of Sirian 7 swirled around Captain Zeth Corvin's boots as he stepped off the transport ship. The mining planet looked like every other world in the outer rim, barren, hostile, and valuable only for what lay beneath its surface. But today was different. Today, the mining crews had found something that shouldn't exist. Captain Corvin adjusted his breathing mask and checked his scanner. The Corvin Empire had ruled these 3-star systems for over 300 years, and in all that time, they had never encountered another intelligent species. They were alone in the galaxy, or so they believed. The discovery made by Mining Team 7 3 days ago had shaken that belief to its core. "Sir, the excavation site is 2 kilometers north," reported Lieutenant Voss, his aide. The young Corvin officer looked nervous, his scaled skin shifting from blue to purple with anxiety. "Commander Vex is already there with the archaeological team." As they walked across the dusty landscape, Corvin thought about the report that had brought him here. The miners had been drilling deep into the planet's crust when they broke through into what appeared to be an artificial chamber. The metals they found were unlike anything in their databases, lighter than Corvin steel but stronger than battle armor. The symbols carved into the walls matched no known language. Most disturbing of all, the chamber showed signs of recent activity despite being buried for what appeared to be centuries. The excavation site buzzed with activity. Corvin scientists worked alongside military engineers, carefully removing layers of rock and metal. Commander Vex approached as soon as he spotted the captain. Vex was old for a Corvin, his scales having turned deep purple with age, and he commanded respect throughout the fleet. "Captain, we've made significant progress," Vex said, his voice tight with controlled excitement. "The chamber is much larger than we initially thought. It appears to be some kind of bunker or storage facility. The construction is far beyond our current capabilities." Corvin followed Vex down a carefully constructed ramp into the excavated chamber. The walls were smooth and seamless, made from that strange metal that seemed to absorb their scanner light. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly with their own inner light. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal supporting what appeared to be some kind of communication device. "Have we been able to translate any of the symbols?" Corvin asked, running his hand along the wall. The metal felt warm, almost alive. Dr. Kess, the expedition's lead archaeologist, looked up from her work. "We've identified patterns that suggest a mathematical base 10 system, similar to our own. But the language structure is completely alien. The symbols seem to represent concepts rather than simple letters or words." As they explored deeper into the chamber, they discovered more rooms branching off from the central area. One room contained what appeared to be star charts, showing the positions of planets and systems. Another held devices that hummed with barely contained energy. But it was the final room that stopped them all in their tracks. The room was filled with screens and control panels, all dark and silent. But as soon as Captain Corvin stepped inside, lights began to flicker on. Systems hummed to life with a sound like singing crystal. And then, from speakers they couldn't see, came a voice. "Welcome," the voice said in perfect Corvin. "I have been waiting for someone to find me." Every weapon in the room was drawn in an instant. Soldiers aimed at shadows while scientists scrambled for their equipment. But the voice continued, calm and patient. "Please, do not be afraid. I am not your enemy. My name is Atlas. I am an artificial intelligence created by the human race to preserve our knowledge and protect our friends." "Humans." Commander Vex stepped forward, his weapon still raised. "There are no humans in this galaxy. We've explored every system." "You have explored every inhabited system," Atlas corrected. "Humans were very good at hiding when they needed to. We had to be. Please, allow me to show you." The screens around the room flickered to life, displaying images that took their breath away. They saw a blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. They saw cities that reached toward the sky and ships that moved between worlds like silver fish through water. They saw humans, bipedal beings with smooth skin and expressive faces, working, laughing, building. This was Earth, Atlas explained, home to 12 billion humans and the heart of a peaceful civilization that spanned 47 worlds. We were explorers, scientists, artists. We sought knowledge and friendship among the stars. Captain Corvin lowered his weapon, fascinated despite his caution. What happened to them? To Earth. The images on the screens changed, showing something that made the Corvins step back in horror. Massive ships, each one the size of a moon, moved through space like predators. Where they passed, planets died. Entire worlds were stripped bare, their matter consumed, their life force drained. The devourers, Atlas said, and for the first time, there was emotion in the artificial voice. Sadness, fear, and something that might have been rage. They came from beyond the galactic rim 200 years ago. A species so old and hungry that they had consumed entire galaxies before reaching ours. They ate worlds, stars, civilizations. Nothing could stop them. The screen showed battles that defied imagination. Human ships fought desperately against enemies that blocked out the stars. Cities were evacuated as planets cracked under alien weapons. But the humans were losing. We fought. Atlas continued. We fought with everything we had. But we realized we could not win through force alone. So we made a choice. Rather than let our knowledge and culture die with us, we would preserve it. Some humans went into deep sleep aboard hidden ships. Others, like Dr. Nina Cross, chose to have their consciousness preserved in digital form. A new voice joined Atlas, warmer and more recognizably emotional. "Hello," said Dr. Cross. "I know this must be shocking for you, but we need your help." Commander Vex found his voice first. "Our help? We're just one species on 3 worlds. What could we possibly do against something that destroyed human civilization?" "More than you think," Dr. Cross replied. "The Devourers are returning. Our long-range sensors have detected their scout ships entering this galaxy. They will be here within 2 standard years. But this time, we're ready." The screen showed new images, vast ships hidden in asteroid fields, weapons built into the very fabric of space itself, defensive systems that spanned entire solar systems. The humans had not been idle during their hiding. "We've spent 2 centuries preparing," Atlas explained. "But we cannot do this alone. We need allies. We need friends who will fight beside us when the time comes." Captain Corvin felt the weight of decision settling on his shoulders. Everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had changed in the span of an hour. His people were no longer alone, but they were also no longer safe. "Why should we trust you?" he asked. "How do we know you're not the threat yourselves?" In response, Atlas displayed the complete technical specifications for every system in the chamber. Power sources, weapon designs, propulsion systems, all far beyond Corvin technology, all freely shared. "Because," Dr. Cross said softly, "we remember what it was like to face the Devourers alone. No one should have to do that. No species should face extinction without friends to stand beside them." The chamber fell silent except for the hum of alien machinery. Captain Corvin looked around at his team, scientists, soldiers, explorers, all waiting for his decision. Through the chamber's newly activated communication system, he could sense the presence of sleeping human ships throughout the galaxy, waiting for the signal to wake up. "What do you need us to do?" he asked finally. Atlas's voice carried what sounded like relief. "Help us wake the others. Help us prepare your people. Help us build an alliance that can stand against the darkness between stars." As the screens around them began displaying star charts and fleet positions, Captain Corvin realized that his life, and the life of every being in the galaxy, had just changed forever. The humans were returning not as conquerors, but as guardians. And together, they would face whatever came from the void. Dr. Cross's voice echoed through the chamber one final time. "Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing. The real fight is about to begin." The first signal had been sent. Across the galaxy, dormant systems began to wake. The human remnant was stirring, and with them, hope that the darkness could be held back one more time. Captain Corvin looked up at the star charts, showing the approaching threat, and knew that the fate of two species now rested in the choices they would make together. The age of silence was ending. The age of alliance had begun. The awakening fleet. 3 months had passed since the discovery on Sirian 7, and the galaxy was no longer the same. Captain Zeth Corvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as streams of data flowed across the screens. Atlas had been true to its word. Human sleeper ships were awakening throughout the galaxy, emerging from asteroid fields, abandoned systems, and hidden bases that had remained secret for 2 centuries. The first human to wake had been Captain Sarah Chen, commander of the vessel Endurance. Corvin had watched the awakening ceremony through Atlas's communication network, seeing the woman emerge from her sleep pod with the same fierce determination that had driven humanity to survive their darkest hour. She had immediately taken command of the human remnant fleet, coordinating the awakening of thousands of her people across dozens of hidden ships. "Sir," Lieutenant Voss reported from his station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the human fleet. Captain Chen requests immediate conference." Corvin nodded, settling into his command chair as the main screen flickered to life. Captain Chen appeared, her dark hair streaked with silver from her long sleep, her eyes sharp with intelligence and purpose. Behind her, the bridge of her ship hummed with activity as human crew members worked at stations that seemed to blend technology with intuition. "Captain Corvin," Chen said, her voice carrying the weight of command. "Our long-range sensors have detected the first wave of Devourer scouts entering the outer rim. We have less time than we hoped." "How long?" Corvin asked, though he dreaded the answer. 6 months, possibly less. The main fleet will arrive within a year." Chen's expression was grim but determined. "We need to begin evacuation of non-essential populations immediately. The Corvin worlds are directly in their path." Commander Vex, who had become the liaison between Corvin and human forces, leaned forward. "Our people won't abandon their homes without a fight. They'll need to see proof of this threat." As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the Corvin ship. Sensor Officer Trex called out from his stations, "Sir, massive contact emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. It's huge." The main screen switched to external sensors, and what they saw made every being on the bridge fall silent. A ship, if it could be called that, emerged from the twisted space of hyperspace. It was organic in appearance, like a massive sea creature made of metal and shadow. Its surface pulsed with veins of sickly green light, and as they watched, smaller ships detached from its hull like parasites leaving their host. "Devourer scout ship," Captain Chen confirmed, her voice tight with old pain. "Class 7 Harvester. It's looking for inhabited worlds to mark for the main fleet." The alien ship moved with purpose toward Corvin Prime, the Empire's capital world. As it traveled, it released clouds of smaller vessels that spread throughout the system like a plague. Wherever they passed, space itself seemed to dim, as if the light of stars was being drained away. "All ships, battle stations," Corvin commanded, but Chen's voice cut through the comm channel. "Wait, let us handle this first contact. Your weapons won't be effective against their shielding." Before Corvin could respond, the human ships moved. The Endurance and her sister ships had been hiding in the system's outer asteroid belt, invisible to sensors until they chose to reveal themselves. Now they emerged like wolves from the shadows, their hulls gleaming with an inner light that seemed to push back the darkness. The Devourer scout ship immediately turned toward the human vessels, recognizing them as the species that had escaped its kind 2 centuries ago. The smaller parasite ships swarmed forward, weapons charging with that same sickly green energy. What followed was unlike any battle Corvin had ever witnessed. The human ships moved like dancers, weaving through enemy fire with impossible grace. Their weapons, beams of pure blue light, cut through Devourer shields as if they weren't there. But more impressive than their technology was their coordination. They fought as one mind, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be, each move calculated to support the whole. Captain Chen's voice came through the comm, calm despite the chaos around her ship. "Atlas, initiate Protocol 7. Full spectrum adaptation." "Acknowledged, Captain. Adaptation protocols active." Corvin watched in amazement as the human ships began to change mid-battle. Their hulls shifted and flowed like liquid metal, adapting to enemy weapons in real time. When the Devourers fired energy beams, the ships grew reflective surfaces. When they launched physical projectiles, the hulls became elastic, absorbing impact and redirecting force. But the most incredible moment came when the main Devourer ship opened its maw, a terrifying orifice large enough to swallow a small moon, and began to drain energy from the system's star. The star visibly dimmed as its light was consumed, and every Corvin felt a chill that went beyond the physical. Captain Chen did not retreat. Instead, she did something that defied all military logic. She flew her ship directly into the creature's mouth. "Chen!" Corvin shouted into the comm, but there was no response. The Endurance disappeared into the alien maw, followed by two other human ships. For a moment, the battle paused. The remaining Devourer ships seemed confused, as if they had lost connection with their mothership. Then the massive scout vessel began to convulse, its organic hull rippling with spasms of pain. "This is Chen," came the captain's voice, strained but triumphant. "We're inside its central nervous system. Atlas, upload the virus now." The Devourer ship's death was spectacular and terrible. The virus that Atlas uploaded through the Endurance's systems spread through the creature's neural network like wildfire. The ship that had seemed invincible moments before began to tear itself apart, its own weapons turning inward as its control systems failed. As the scout ship died, its smaller vessels went dark and drifted powerless through space. The Endurance and her escorts emerged from the dying creature, their hulls scared but intact. "One down," Captain Chen reported. "But this was just a scout. The main fleet will be 1,000 times worse." Over the following days, human and Corvin forces worked together to prepare for the coming storm. The humans shared technology that seemed like magic, energy sources that drew power from quantum fluctuations, materials that became stronger under stress, weapons that learned from each battle and adapted to face new threats. But it was the humans themselves that impressed Corvin most. They worked with a determination born of desperation but tempered by hope. They had faced extinction once and refused to yield. Now they would do so again, not just for themselves, but for every species in the galaxy. Dr. Cross, her consciousness now distributed throughout the combined fleet's computer systems, became their strategist and coordinator. Her knowledge of Devourer tactics, combined with 2 centuries of human innovation, created battle plans that turned their greatest weaknesses into strengths. "They consume energy and matter," she explained during a strategy session. "But they cannot consume concepts, memories, or determination. That is where we will defeat them." When the main Devourer fleet arrived, a darkness that blotted out entire sectors of space, they found the galaxy waiting for them. Human ships flew alongside Corvin vessels, their crews trained together, their systems integrated. They had built not just an alliance, but a family. The final battle raged across multiple star systems. The Devourers came in waves, each one designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers and consumption. But for every world they threatened, human ingenuity found a way to protect it. For every weapon they deployed, human adaptability found a counter. The turning point came when Captain Chen, now commanding a combined human-Corvin task force, led a desperate assault on the Devourer Queen's command ship. The massive vessel, large enough to house entire fleets, had been consuming stars to power its advance, but the humans had learned its weakness during their long hiding. As the Endurance and her escorts penetrated the Queen's defenses, Atlas spoke across all comm channels with Dr. Cross's voice. "For everyone who ever looked up at the stars and refused to surrender. For every species that chooses hope over despair, for the future we build together. The virus they planted in the Queen's ship was not just a weapon. It was 2 centuries of human determination, compressed into code. It spread through the Devourer fleet like a plague in reverse, not destroying but transforming. The alien ships began to turn on each other, their hive mind fractured by the concept of individual choice. When the battle ended and the Devourer fleet lay broken in space, Captain Corvin found himself standing beside Captain Chen on the bridge of the Endurance. Through the view screen, they could see both human and Corvin ships working together to rescue survivors and rebuild damaged stations. "Your people saved us all," Corvin said quietly. Chen shook her head. "We saved each other. That's what friends do." As they watched, new signals appeared on the sensors. Ships from species they had never encountered, drawn by the battle's energy signatures. The galaxy was larger than either humans or Corvins had imagined, and now it knew that there were those willing to stand against the darkness. Atlas's voice, now carrying the accumulated wisdom of both species, spoke across the fleet. "This is just the beginning. There are more threats out there, more species that need friends, more wonders to discover, but we'll face them together." The age of human legends was over. The age of human reality had begun, and with it, a galaxy where no species would ever face extinction alone again.